Hello YouTube, this is Neon. This is going to be part 4 of what I'm titling Coping with Mental Illness. And it's just me sharing what I do to cope with my mental illness. I've left things out. This was supposed to be 3 parts, and now we're on part 4. There may be a part 5. I would be remiss if I didn't go into details about psych meds, okay, as relates to my experience taking them and my experience with mental illness. Before I start, I want to talk about what I'm going to call the extremes of taking psych meds. The good extreme being that they're helpful, they do their job. The bad extreme is innocent people could lose their lives. The good extreme, I'm going to use Brooke Shields as an example. We all know that she's pretty, she a good actor, she tall, and she gorgeous. We all know that already. Most of us know she a woman of character too. She ain't said a thing about her relationship with Michael Jackson, cause the woman honors the man. She like the female Joe DiMaggio. We love her. Now, I'm assuming this. I don't know Brooke Shields personally, and I haven't followed her career that well. But I'm assuming that I'm very confident that she's intelligent, assertive, self-confident, street smart, has a lot of common sense, has options. We know she's rich, and generally speaking, people who are rich have more options than poor people like me. So when she had to take psych meds for postpartum depression, I believe it's fair to say that she probably collaborated with her doctor. She probably was well versed in all the potential side effects. She probably asked her doctor all the questions that were relevant to her. She took these meds. It really helped treat her postpartum depression. Probably made her enjoy her life with her newborn baby better, and help treat a condition. And she went publicly to say it, and I think that what she was doing is wonderful, and really helping other people who may feel like I don't want to take psych meds, period. So that's the good extreme of taking psych meds. Excuse me. So the negative extreme. The negative extreme would be doctors, psychiatrists pushing psych meds on people, not really collaborating with their patients, and doing so in such an unconscientious and irresponsible way that it can lead to the death of innocent people who are already suffering from mental illness. So I'm going to do a shout out right now to cognitive burnout. I am going to recommend anybody here who is suffering from mental illness, who may have concerns about taking psych meds, who may be taking psych meds already, but they want to know what is the perspective of people with mental illness, not just what are the psychologists and the psychiatrists and the mental health staff saying. Okay, that's what this is for. This is not me trying to be a professional and tell you what you should do. This is me just telling you my experience. Now, Cognitive Burnout has his own channel, and he has one of his videos that I watch is called PTSD, People in Crisis, Anywhere, Anytime, Anyone. I will put a link in the description below, right down there, if you all want to see it. And I will mention this one more time if you choose to want to write it down. I will mention his name and video again. In this video, he talks about his experience over a period of quite a few years of taking psych meds, and the negative effects of psychiatrists prescribing these in a way that's not responsible, that's not conscientious, that in a helping profession, we assume that there's some sense of love, right? Love meaning an action word, not a gushy feeling, right? A gushy, affectionate feeling. But love meaning that I love my patients and I will do everything for their best care. And in his video, what he talks about really doesn't show that kind of love action on the part of psychiatrists. The guy seems like a really sweet guy. He's very soft-spoken. He nearly lost his life as a result of what psychiatrists had done to him, pushing meds on him constantly. They took no responsibility for it. While cognitive burnout seems like a nice guy, and he speaks in a really calm manner, the things that he has to say are frightening and in the sense that he came very close to losing his life as a result of these psych meds. Horrifying. I recommend you watch his video so that you can see the other extreme. Alright? So I'm going to go into my experience with psych meds. The first time that I had admitted myself into a mental hospital, I was 5150, which is suicidal. I didn't want to die, so I had myself admitted. I was doing so bad financially was one of the big reasons. Emotionally, psychologically, definitely psychologically. And I had myself admitted. The first thing that they did was put me on 2 different meds. I was out of it. I do not to this day know what these 2 meds were. Within, as I recall, a couple of days I got a rash. The rash began to spread all over my body. A rash that occurs as a result of taking medication, as I understand it, has the potential of being fatal. It can mean that a person's kidneys or liver are not able to process or function as a result of these drugs. It could mean that. So I showed the psychiatrist my rash, which was going up my arms. I don't remember if it had spread all over my body yet. I don't think it had, but it was quickly spreading. He immediately took me off of those. I told him, I'm looking at my notes right now. I told him probably at this point, I don't want to take psych meds. And he told me, what did he tell me? It has a limit, abuser, minimum dosage temporary, world system. Okay, what the doctor told me was that I had to take the meds. And I said, why? He told me, and thank you for your patience as I was perusing my notes. He told me that the government does not recognize mental illness as such. And I'm paraphrasing what this psychiatrist told me. He said what the government recognizes are chemical imbalances in the brain, and that those chemical imbalances can be treated with medication. And so the government will pay for that. However, the government will not pay for me to be in a mental institution and to be treated with just talk therapy and group therapy. So he put me on 2 other meds, which I took. I do not remember having an allergic reaction to them. But after being released from this mental hospital, I was in the hospital for 11 days. I believe that I moved to another county to stay with my sister, because my little sister, you know, I love you, little sis, and I'm incredibly blessed that I was able to stay with you. Shortly after moving in with her, I attempted suicide. But moving to another county, I don't recall them having the mental health, having done anything to really follow up to make sure that I had the ability to continue to take my meds. I was probably very reticent to continue taking them anyway, and I stopped taking them. So I attempted suicide. I was in a mental hospital for 3 days after that, and I don't recall taking any meds there either. From there I went to a homeless shelter. Later I moved into public housing in Skid Row, began the process. Ultimately I applied and qualified for SSI and got SSI, Social Security Disability Income. Another doctor who I did not get along with, who I do not believe valued nor respected me, put me on 3 different meds. I had a minor problem with these meds, and what he did was took me off of one of them, and I continued to take the 2 other meds. My reaction once he took me off one of those medications, which I do not remember what they were either, was I had a really strong allergic reaction whereby I began to grind my teeth. I was terrified. I didn't want to grind my teeth down. It was so bad that when my teeth touched, they immediately began to grind. I could see the muscles on the sides of my face working involuntarily. I went to the psychiatrist as soon as I could and told him. He immediately began to blame me. He asked me, have you ever smoked meth? That could be the latent or residual effects of you having smoked meth in the past. I was 32 at the time and had never done any narcotic. I was like, no. And then he went through some other narcotics, and it was no, I hadn't done any narcotics. And then finally he got down to pot, which of course by the age of 32 I had smoked pot a handful of times. He said, well, that could be the residual effect of you having smoking pot in the past. Very frustrating. I knew he was not going to help me. I knew he was not going to take any responsibility for what he had done to me. I wasn't going to try to go through the labor of trying to get justice for what this man had done to me, or get any kind of compensation. I knew it would involve me going into the courts. Once I became a ward of the court at age 15 and was in this courtroom and was put in foster homes, it was just very traumatic to go into a court. It was almost paranoia to be in a courtroom, and I just didn't want to try to get justice. I believe that if I had said that I had not ever smoked pot, that he would have probably said, have you ever taken aspirin? I mean, he was going to blame me for this. So another time I had taken meds, and after this, and it was one medication, principally for me to go to sleep. And it worked for about a year. After about a year, I could no longer sleep. I've always struggled with sleep problems. I went to the doctor and I let him know that this isn't working anymore. I can't sleep at night. So he wanted to double the dosage. And I said, that's kind of weird. You want to double the dosage on me? Like I'm going to take more of this? And he said, yeah. I'm like, nobody told me I was going to have to take stronger dosages. I just thought it was weird. Like that didn't sound to me. And he said, yeah, of course. He says, in another year I'll probably have to increase the dosage again. I didn't want to be taking stronger and stronger dosages of drugs. So I took his prescription and I tossed it and I stopped taking that medication. I didn't sleep for 2 days. By this time I wasn't sleeping much anyway. And it was really, really bad withdrawing from that drug. And I wouldn't want to withdraw from a stronger dosage. So that ended that. I had suffered more recently, and it wasn't just my mental health, it was some things that had happened to 2 loved ones of mine. And I suffered for a year. I was stuck in the mud for a year. And I just self-medicated. I got my medical marijuana card and I smoked pot for a year. I was productive in the sense that sometimes I studied Spanish. Sometimes I always did my mantras, my positive affirmations. My positive affirmations, definitely. Didn't do much working out. Yes, there's side effects to smoking pot. I did put on weight. I slept well. After a year, I didn't have. I had sex 3 times because I put on weight and I didn't really feel comfortable trying to hook up. I didn't feel confident. So when I stopped smoking pot, as I came out of this horrible depression, and pot worked for me. They'd always said, "Well, pot makes depression worse." It didn't with me. It really was very helpful. I only smoked it at night. I was not high all day. I only smoked it at night before going to bed. But when I stopped smoking that, I couldn't sleep for I think a day and a half as well. But it wasn't as bad as the day and a half to 2 days that I couldn't sleep withdrawing from the medication. So I'm going to leave it there with my experience. We are going to have a part 5. Now it's looking like we may have a part 6. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, share, comment, commercial, or my video. Do 1 or more of those things. Thank you. Best wishes.